Caribbean is offering for persons to become familiar with using Zoom as a platform of choice to have meetings and to congregate with your club. So the purpose of this meeting is to have a rather informal session to run through basically how you would manage having your meetings online using Zoom. As our Sergeant at Arms John has been explaining, the first thing that you'd want to do is make sure that you label properly so that everyone can know who you are and where you're from. In our case, our club has members all around the world that were originally from the Caribbean or living in the Caribbean at some time. So it's very important for us to have those labels. But please, if everyone would first familiarize themselves with doing that. I see quite a few folks have not renamed themselves. You should click on your picture.
Galaxy A30, that's not very informative, Galaxy.
Right.
Is that first or last name?
There's about 3 or 4, there's about 4 or 5 people actually that have not renamed themselves with their name and the location that they're signing on from. If you would just put your cursor over your picture, and you're gonna see those 3 little dots appear, and you can rename yourself to add both your name and your location. If you could do that quickly, please.
In general, those 3 little dots signify a menu, a drop-down menu. Just that's sometimes you see 3 little dots on a page. This is what it's for. Okay, well, we're getting cooperation from some, but not some others. So, and that is Rotary and a Rotary meeting. I can remember being told that Rotarians are not generally on time and they do not follow directions.
Free thinkers.
Okay. Normally at this point, after Brent has welcomed
anyway, we just wanted to make sure that everyone knows how to do so, and that when you log on, if you would follow some basic protocol, your meetings would go really smoothly. Raise your hands. The easiest way is to just physically raise your hand. If you're off video, you can go down to over where it says participants, where all the participants are listed, and you can logically click on raising your hand, and the Sergeant at Arms or whoever is running the meeting will be able to see that.
And this is important because
so that way everyone isn't speaking all the time.
Particularly when we get into, if we share a screen, I may only see 5 pictures. So I definitely need you to raise your hand electronically if there's something you want to say. And if you're not speaking, I see everybody is being pretty good about that. Please stay muted. And then, of course, you've got to remember to unmute yourself when you are recognized. So practice that. At least on my PC, I can unmute myself by just holding down the space bar, and it will temporarily unmute me. So you can try that and see how that goes. I see immediate past President Dawn has managed to break loose from work and join us. Okay, one of the things right after the President opens the meeting and greets everyone, he'll have generally a roll call of sorts to account for members who are not in attendance, who called in their apologies, so that at this point you've got, who's there and who's not and how come. And then you generally will offer a brief summary of the meeting agenda that you're going to have. One of the benefits of this is that we can have a guest speaker in our program from almost anywhere. And if we have not managed to round up a guest speaker to join us, we can show a video. This is done through the sharing of the screen. I'm going to demonstrate this just briefly since I've recently learned how to do this better after some trial and error at our club meeting recently. And also, when you go to share a screen, don't try and do it now, it won't work, but when you do, it will bring up your desktop. It will bring up all of your open windows. Select the one you want to share, and then if there is a sound included in it, as there will be in today's video, be sure down at the lower left-hand corner to click Share Computer Sound. Otherwise, everybody will just be watching his lips move. So this was our...
Thank you, Kevin. Before answering that question, what's a good Rotarian, I suggest this question has a second part. Can a person be a good Rotarian in a struggling, broken Rotary club? Do good Rotarians and good clubs go hand in hand?
Now,
I travel around and I visit many Rotary clubs, so I often hear somebody described as a good Rotarian.
Here.
They describe a person who has 100% attendance.
But this gives you an idea of how you could bring in an interesting talk, a TED Talk. I think I'm going to go back and watch the rest of that because I got intrigued at this point.
John, before you go further,
yes.
Could you, again, I see people continuing to join, so welcome everyone. And so especially our district governor is here. Welcome, DG Delma. And I'd like to ask everyone to rename themselves to include both your name and the location that you're signing on from. So if you can just say that periodically, we'd appreciate that.
Your location or your club will, whatever, that will do. We just want to know who you are. And let's just face it, I have no idea what LML212VL is or where. I'd really prefer, also I'd like to show your face. We'd love to see. One of the beauties of
in order to rename yourself, just hover over your picture, and as you hover over your picture, you'll see 3 dots appear, and choose rename and go from
there. Okay. Thank you. We keep trying to do this. So, yes, Natasha.
I have a quick question regarding the new security of meetings. I actually had an instance the other day with a Rotaract club meeting that we had, and a phone came in the meeting, and they were like, "Oh, that's John," or "That's whoever," so they knew who that person was. And then another one came, nobody could tell who that person was. So I'm not sure what you would suggest, but what I did was say, "Hi, I'm seeing, whatever, Samsung ABC. Can you tell me who this is, please? Could we have a name? Can you tell us what club you're from?" And I asked twice, didn't get a response. So I said, "Unfortunately, we're not hearing from you. I can't see who it is. So I'm just going to remove and ask you to try to reconnect with your name, please."
Yes, and I will go over some of the new security things before we're done. But yes, that's very the host, and that's generally the sergeant at arms, or probably the sergeant at arms, or whoever is technically savvy and willing to do it, can remove a person from the meeting. So you hope you don't have to do that, but it's possible. All right, let me go just a little bit further. And you just brought up an issue, or an entrance, the next thing on my agenda, which was that the question and answer with the sergeant at arms managing the raised hands of commentators. This normally would follow the speaker or the presentation, because this is where we get into the discussion, the question and answer, and so forth, which follows the presentation of the program. And so I don't know if anybody else could see, well, nobody else maybe could see. Natasha's hand was up. She raised it electronically. I'm sure that someone here can just raise their hand in front of the screen and I'll call on them. Well, Donald, you're speaking up.
I see several people has raised their hands.
Okay. Oh, and here's electronically LML 21. All right. Lower your hand and tell us who you are and why, please.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yes, I'm Dr. Adini Ibamidele from Rotary Club of Black River, St. Elizabeth, Jamaica.
Welcome.
I'm visiting Miramar, Florida, and just decided to join this network today.
All right. Well, we're glad you did, and I guess you're on a smartphone.
That's correct.
And that's a little harder to rename yourself on. I don't think you can hover over your picture as readily. Who else had? I'll have to go to the other screen. Wow.
I had my hand up. Good afternoon to you all, and happy Easter. What's left of it. I'm Lloyd Eubank Green from the Rotary Club of St. Andrew in Kingston, Jamaica.
Welcome, Lloyd.
Welcome, Lloyd. Welcome.
Thank you.
Bazine Dominique, unmute yourself.
Hello?
Unmute yourself.
Yes, I'm Dominique Bazin, Past Assistant Governor, Rotary Delmas Airport.
Ah, welcome.
80.
AG from Delmas.
80. Yes.
Bonjour. From Haiti.
Welcome from Haiti. Welcome.
Yes.
Thank you.
Bonjour. Bonsoir.
Bon après-midi.
Bon après-midi. I'm certain that Henriette would have caught that. Our member from Guadeloupe.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hello.
Is that?
Hello.
Hello, Bobby.
Hello. Good afternoon. This is Bobby. I'm from St. Andrew North. I'm joining your meeting because I think I saw Diana there, and of course my president, Anne-Marie. I'm here in Atlanta, and I've decided to join to see what this session has to offer.
Well, I'm so glad.
Nice to see you, Bobby.
In case nobody noticed, we're from all over. Even locally, we're from all over. All right. One of the next things we would do normally in a meeting would have the quick announcements and announcement of upcoming events and activities. And then let's presume that you have a Rotarian with the imagination of, let's say, Ronnie, drew a blank. Help me, Brent. Ronnie Lockhart. Yeah.
I was going to spare him. I wasn't sure if he was speaking about that, Ronnie, but okay, go ahead. He deserves whatever it is.
With someone with the imagination and wicked sense of humor as Ronnie Lockhart, you have, as a sergeant at arms, can run around and award fines and keep it, keep it light. But in case somebody had forgotten to put on their pin and is not wearing a pin, that could be worth a fine. We have a member who is, I think his mother was scared by socks when he was young and whatever, but he absolutely abhors wearing socks, and sometimes we'll award fines to anybody.
In my badge at the table there.
Anybody with socks on who will admit to it. Also, we've had at least one time where because you are only seen from, basically the chest up, don't have to get very dressed up for a meeting. And we were questioning whether someone was actually wearing pants recently. That got a good amount of humor and a few dollars. Then you can offer for the happy dollars, and people will give happy dollars for any number of things. I'm happy that I am at home with my wife and we can't go anywhere, but we didn't go anywhere anyway. So, no big deal. And I'm happy that we are both well, and everyone I know is well. And I hope you are all well too. But this, you collect the happy dollars, you award fines and happy dollars, and have the secretary take note of who does it, how much. Brent?
Yes, I was just going to say, in our case, it's relatively easy to collect the happy dollars or the fines, because we just go up on a website and pay whatever we said we were going to pay. And so we use the honor system. So I would suggest you do the same. While you may not be meeting in person, having an online meeting, you can have the same similar interaction as you would have in person. And, the secretary can keep track and use the honor system, and eventually everyone would submit whatever fines or happy dollars that they've committed to.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Many of you can look at the upper left corner of your screen and notice, well, there's a little green lock. That means that Zoom is in fact encrypting the transmissions. And also you'll notice there's a little red dot says it's recording. I am recording this to my computer, and I will ultimately upload it to YouTube, where we can all go and review it, and people who missed the meeting can go look at it. And if you are really into, a masochist, you can look at it again. But this is something that is controlled by the host, and it can be recorded either to the host's computer and subsequently uploaded, or it can be recorded to the Zoom cloud. Now, the Zoom cloud has limited storage space. So you've got to be careful in doing that. You'll fill it up, and they will offer you additional storage space, and it is not nearly as generous an offer as you got for the pro account through Rotary. It is, I think, incredibly expensive. Now, in our case, we record each meeting. We record each board meeting. The board meetings the recordings of the board meetings are sent, following the meeting, are sent to the board members. And these we post on Vimeo. And so the Vimeo enables us to have these meetings private. Unless you have the link that you have been sent, you can't see it. The club members receive the same thing from the recorded club meeting. That goes to all of our club members, and they have the link to go review the meeting that they may have just missed. Usually at this point, we unmute all. The host can do that. We unmute all, and a volunteer leads us through the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do as Rotarians. After that, we generally have a few people that hang around. There's more fellowship. And in our meetings, generally, people show up 15 minutes or so early, and there's just a general fellowship. Nothing planned until the president comes up and says, all right, let's get this started. Or in the case of many times, Well, we'll wait 3 more minutes for people to show up. And at this point, I would ask for, well, let me go briefly to the changes to security. The changes that Zoom has created make a password for a meeting default. That's you create a new meeting, you create a meeting, it's going to have a password by default. Now this can be turned off. And the other thing is that the password is generally embedded in the link that you're given, which means, I don't know, did anybody today have to use the password to sign in? Okay, yeah, a few. I clicked on the link that was sent out in the email, and I came right in. So the password is of some value, but I think the real value is in the other security option that is open to you, and it's offered, I believe by default, is the waiting room. And the waiting room says that is what happens if you show up before the host starts the meeting. The waiting room is where you'll end up. The host in the meeting will see that you are there and can either invite you in or leave you there. I think, personally, I feel that our Rotary meetings should be as open and easy to get access as possible. We have visitors who from everywhere, and I would not necessarily recognize their email address or their name in the waiting room, and I would certainly hate to keep a visiting Rotarian or an interested visitor from our meetings. So I plan that we will use the waiting room for our board meetings, because our board meetings occur just before our regular meeting, and if our board meeting runs the full hour and we have regular members who are trying to come to the meeting and show up 10 or 15 minutes early, they would be popping into the board meeting. So I'm going to have them in a waiting room, and it will tell them that we'll be with them shortly. That's what the waiting room says. Now, it's also, I'm as the host, and you have these choices when you set up the meeting, but you can change them on the fly, which is a big change from what Zoom was doing earlier. In order to have the waiting room, you had to decide to do that when you started the meeting. You don't have to do that now. I could enable a waiting room right now, and nobody else can get in without asking to. Share screen. Well, Bobby was sharing his screen this morning when I signed on, but that's because we have enabled or to allow participants to share the screen. I can disable that and nobody can do it. Chat. You can chat. People have been chatting. I see there's 6 chats there that I haven't read, but I can choose not to let you chat, or, and this seems foolish to me, I can remove your ability to rename yourself. Now, I've asked so many of you to rename yourselves that I don't know why I would do that. And the last option I have is remove participant. This is something that, as Natasha indicated, when someone signs on with a telephone particularly, you don't get a name, you get a phone number. And if they're not going to tell you who they are, and then the host can rename them when he recognizes who they are, you just probably go ahead and remove them. And that way you won't have anybody Zoom bombing you. One of the last things that want to do is I want to talk about the reactions. As you'll see, if you're on the right-hand side of your screen, I hope, there's a little thing that says reactions. And if you like something, if it's okay, give it a thumbs up. Thank you. Or, I believe this hand there is applause. We do better than that. We do this. Even if you're muted, it's fairly obvious to do that. And Diana has experimented with and participated in something you'll see that's to the left of your chat icon, and it's called polls. I see the poll.
Nobody else can see that, John. It's only you can see polls. None of the rest of us can.
Oh, so am I to read this?
If you wish to do the poll, just click on the poll and we'll all find out what it's all about.
Launch polling. All right.
Okay. So we need to complete the poll so that we can illustrate how it's working. So please fill in your answers.
How do we fill them out?
You cannot. As host, you don't get to do that because you did the questions in the first place.
Yeah, thank you, Diana. Diana did the questions, by the way.
And then, John, you should see the percentage of people answering as it goes up. And then when you get to 100% or close to that, you can close the poll down. And you can also, you should be able to share with everybody what the results are as well.
Dominique, you have your hand up. You have a question?
Dave Lakin here from Nassau.
No, I didn't know my hand was up.
East Nassau.
I know my hand was up.
Okay.
No, Dominique, you go.
Oh, Dominique.
Okay, Dave Lakin from the Rotary Club of East Nassau in the Bahamas, the home of our past RI President Barry Rassin. We were on a Zoom with President Mark in the States, and we had 313 people on the Zoom, and somebody hacked it. It was absolutely unbelievable, the language they were using. And so we said no more Zoom, and next thing we know, in the paper here, Zoom, the chairman got onto it straight away. And hopefully we won't get hit again, but that was absolutely, to have the president and the past president of Rotary having to put up with that. It's horrible. Anyway, I'm so glad to join you people because we have a young group of people, entrepreneurs, who have what they, on a Monday night, they have Rotary before dark or after dark. Of course, now they do it at 6 o'clock, and so it's before dark. And I thought this might be them coming on, but I'm so glad I've joined you all. I've been to most of the islands in the Caribbean, so it's nice to see Jamaica and St. Bart's and all the rest of it. In fact, I went on one of those horrible things, a cruise at Christmas time. Unfortunately, it was at Christmas time because one place you don't want to be now is on a cruise ship.
Yes, thank you very much. I hope that the presidents of Rotary International didn't hear any words they hadn't heard before. Philip, you've had your hand up.
I see that you've got a thing saying poll in progress, but how do you get to it? On the top of my screen, I've got a little green oval saying poll in progress.
Have you
do I have to press that?
I don't know. I haven't been on the other side of this. Any
John, you should be able to close the poll and then share the results.
No, I'm still trying to, I still want to go into the poll.
Philip's still trying to get into it.
Is it anonymous, Diana, or can the organizer see?
It's anonymous.
It's anonymous.
It's anonymous, yeah.
I'm on an iPad. On an iPad, I have an oval that says poll in progress.
Can you click on that? Can you click on that?
I'll try. Oh, yes. Okay, it's come up. Thank you.
One of the things my wife would never have gotten there because she's afraid to do something that she doesn't know what it's going to do. I try to keep reminding her the computer's memory is only as long as its power cord. Lavinia, you had your hand up.
Yes, I was actually interested in asking, how do you actually set up a poll?
Aha. Now that's another question. I defer to Diana.
Okay, in your account, you first need to make sure that polls are enabled. And the only way you can do that is to sign into your account on Zoom US. So you log into your account and you go to manage the system. And in fact, if you go onto Zoom and you type in almost anything into the support, you will get a very accurate, concise, and easy to read instruction on how to do things. That's the first thing you need to know. You can go in and type in polls. You get a very detailed explanation of how to do it. It'll probably take you about 1 minute, I would think. So you have to enable polls, and then
Diana, could you share your screen quickly? Could you share your screen and set up a quick 2-question poll so they can see?
I can't, because I can't do polls unless I'm the host, and John is the host.
I can make you host.
Okay. I'm not sure if it'll show or not. You may not be able to see it. I don't know. Somebody's sharing their screen at the moment.
I'll take care of that.
I'm not getting an invitation. Oh, thank you. Okay, I'm the host now. All right.
And you can kill it now because I can't. You're the host. Thank you.
Right.
How do you make somebody the host?
I go to manage participants and choose the person, and in the menu of options available to me is make host. Also, it might be handy to have a co-host, because when like today, when I've got more than one screen to try and keep track of, have a co-host who says, you watch the second screen, I'll watch the first one, and we'll know who's raising their hands.
Yes, for everyone, if you click on participants, you do get a list of the people who are on the meeting. And you also have arrows right and left of your screen so that you can toggle and see who's on the meeting. I'm not sure if I will be able to share a screen and show this, but once you have set up the option that you want to have polls and enable to polls, you go into the meeting and you simply click on polls, and it will give you an option to put in questions and answers right there, and you just save. I usually do that ahead of the meeting, but it can be quite useful. I mean, when we come to elect our officers, if you have more than one person running for office, you can use this poll at a time when you want to do elections for all sorts of things. Anything that your club might want to do differently or change, then that's one way of getting a feeling for how your members feel about various options that you might be considering. I will try and share the screen, but I don't think you can kind of share a Zoom screen as far as I know. Let me see if that works. Okay. I've never tried this before, so who knows? I don't think you're seeing my Zoom screen. I think you're probably...
I'm seeing the agenda.
Yeah, you can't do it because then as soon as I do that, everybody's name, picture will shift to the right. And so I can then no longer see polls, and certainly nobody else will be able to. So you're just going to have to believe me when I tell you it's a pretty simple thing to do. The only one thing I will say is that when you set up a poll, you are setting up for a particular meeting. So I have to set this poll for this meeting. We've been practicing this type of thing with other Rotary clubs, and you have to put a different one each time. Or at least you could repeat the same questions if you want, but they have to be put individually into a specific club meeting. So that's really all I think, that I can tell you about polls. Just go in and play with it. I mean, as John says, it's computer memory is only as long as the lead into the wall. So John, do you want to take this back again, or should I?
Yes, please send it back. And I was going to do one of Natasha's favorite things.
Thank you for the explanation. Thank you.
John, I don't know how to hand this back.
Manage participants. Pick me, then pick more.
Okay. Yes, thank you. Okay.
I are the host now.
Okay.
Okay. One of Natasha's favorite things, I think, was the breakout rooms. Now, breakout rooms can be very useful if you are having a brainstorming session, if you're working on your strategic plan together, if you are, or you just want to separate the people from each other. It depends, on times. Now, the breakout rooms, if I click on, as a host, I have this option to click on breakout rooms, and I can choose rooms, and I can choose 3 rooms here, and I can manually assign, this is going to be 12 participants to a room. Well, let me try 4 rooms. We'll have 9 to 10 participants per room. I'm going to let Zoom split you up automatically. But if we had some reason to put individuals together, like a committee of one particular committee into one room, then I could do it manually. And manually, you assign each person to this. I have 38 participants. I'm not about to start that. So I'm going to create the rooms, and let's see what happens. Let me know. I'm going to open all rooms. And now I can go to breakout room 1 here. I'm speaking to those of you in breakout room 1. Wow, you guys are number 1.
We are.
Now I'm going to, sorry, I'll bring you back shortly. I'm going to join breakout room 2. And
okay.
And breakout room 2, I have some of my favorite people ever.
I think you said that in every breakout room.
How many breakout rooms do we have now? 1 or 2?
We have 4.
Oh, great.
I'll be right back. I'm going to go to 3 and tell them the same thing.
To see you and
Very
continue
nice to
to
see you.
be safe.
And
Yes.
Thank you.
And here I am joining all of you lovely people in breakout room 3. I hope you have come to some monumental decision of how this is. And if you please excuse me, I've got to go check breakout room 4, and then we'll all get back together.
Okay.
John, thank you.
Okay.
Well, this is the primo group. Now you may think otherwise, being breakout room 4, but I look at who is here and say, yeah, all right, this is where it's happening. Did you come to any great decisions? Were you able to interact?
Dawn shared a lot of her knowledge. It was absolutely wonderful.
Okay. Thank you. I'm going to go back and close all the rooms, and we'll all be back together and have a great time.
I certainly enjoy the.
There's the box I talked about.
Watching everybody come back, it's fascinating. Okay, there were 75% of you voted, and let's see what the answer. Sorry?
I was asking a question earlier to,
yes.
And Dinah was responding with regards to the feature. I'd asked if the breakout rooms and whiteboard, if that is available on all packages. Oh, I didn't do.
I do not believe it's available on the free, on the basic free one. I do not recommend enabling whiteboard file sharing. These are ways that you can be hacked more than just having somebody boom in and show you a obscene photo or whatever. So these are the results. Does everybody see the results now? Sharing the poll results.
Yes, we are. We're seeing.
Yes, thank you for that, John.
Yes, I saw it.
I think those would have been my choices too, although I was prohibited from voting. So this concludes the polling. We have played with breakout rooms. I was fascinated at the automatic selection, but I also know that if you have a smaller group, it will make more sense to place the appropriate people together so they can work. When you were in the breakout rooms, you were able to communicate one with another? Yes? Was just like always. Brent, jump in. Please.
Okay, did we have any questions from participating in the breakout rooms?
Well, I had a question, but it was being answered by.
None? Okay.
By
all right.
Diana. And
okay.
John was continuing the response now with regards to whiteboard and breakout rooms. I know from the recommendation that I have, and based on the research that I've had, we have recommended that none of the packages that persons buy, they should not use the free nor the basic, because that is where most of the issues are happening with regards to hacking. So move to the professional level. And at the professional level, then you do have many of these features. I have utilized from my group meeting when I had a closed group, a meeting, the waiting room facility, which works perfectly. And all the meetings now, we have turned on passwords. I will not, I've told the team not to accept any Rotary meeting if there's no password there. They must ask if there's a password available, because these are ways we can protect ourselves. There's still some research being done as it regards to the desktop version opposed to the general app. I saw our secretariat sent something to me today, which I have to read through, because there are some members in our clubs where their corporate entities have blocked Zoom on their corporate instruments.
Yes.
And as such, that pose a problem for them to participate in the meeting. So we're continuously doing the research to ensure to give them, you know, and then with the class action suit that came out recently, with a group of persons suing Zoom, we have to take those things into consideration. So although as a club we have purchased Zoom, we're still doing the research to ensure that we turn on all the necessary security, implement the necessary security precautions so we do not have any issues.
Well, Emery, I don't argue with anything you said except having none of your people attend something that didn't have a password, because I have seen way too many. I mean, the announcement for our meeting, which was sent out to the district, gave the link and showed what the password was. Now you're sending an email that says, go here. Oh, and this is the password in the same email. What is the value? And once again, as I say, I think we want to make it as easy as possible for Rotarians, visitors to be in our meeting. And we have the capability to exclude them, get rid of them if they are not appropriate. But I don't want to keep anybody out that should be or wants to be there. Back over to you, President Brown.
Okay, I'd just like to expound on that a bit, John, because Zoom is a platform that has been around for quite some time. We have used this for how many years now? Six years?
6, 7.
Okay, and so, you know, we had a problem once where we had a Zoom bomber come on and we didn't know who it was. At the time, we decided to just put a password on our meetings, and we dealt with it that way and haven't had the problem since. Now that Zoom has upgraded their suite to include more security parameters, the sergeant at arms or whoever is running the meeting can actually monitor. And if you utilize best practices, you know, it should be a very easy to use platform. Now, for most Rotary meetings, it's usually an open platform. And so it serves our purpose well to not put too much security in place on front side. Of course, again, whoever's hosting the meeting, in an instance that you mentioned, Bisco Dave, you know, we can go and quickly remove that person if something like that were to happen again. So, you know, and further, if you needed to have more confidential meetings, such as a board meeting or something else of that sort, then you certainly should create a unique meeting number for that meeting, like a break room meeting number, or have it password protected. So there's different measures of security that the host can take to make sure that it's a easy to use software. So we just wanted to show you that using the Zoom platform, we can do pretty much anything that we would do if we were meeting in person and have no Rotary meetings in person, because, you know, I'm the president, but I'm fined quite a lot. So I can tell you, you know, once you have a very strong sergeant at arms, and you saw how happy he was to regain control from Diana. So, you know, it makes all the difference in the world. Roger, yeah.
Thank you, Roger.
Yeah, if I can just jump in on people who perhaps not so familiar with it, can I suggest that when you're doing these meetings, because we have there are some advantages to remote meetings in the quality of speakers we're able to get in, which you wouldn't normally be able to get. But I do think it's important that you do show yours. Body language, if you're in a regular meeting, is obvious because you'll be standing next to somebody. So to try and recreate that as best you can, as I am now speaking to you, and I can see all these people, but some people have not. But if you get used to this, But I do recommend that for the benefit of your club and the glue that holds your club together, that you be visible, because that's when you have a laugh and a joke and the stuff that you would do if you're actually in the room with everybody.
That's a very important point that you raised, Roger, as well as one that we spoke about before. When you begin the meeting, make sure you label your profile appropriately. That way, the host will know who is there, and anyone that's not labeled appropriately may be disconnected from the meeting. And so that's a choice that you have to make sure that you control any unknown, any unwanted guests. Natasha.
Yes, DG Delma, please.
Yes, I have a question, but before I do, let me say thank you so much to the EClub of the Caribbean for this wonderful service that you're providing for our district. And the one good thing about this too is I get to see so many persons from all over the region. It's really wonderful to see you. I'm especially, well, I'm excited to see everybody. And do you know that we have online Mr. Wheelchair from Jamaica? Dr. Lloyd, he's responsible for bringing in, what is it, how many wheelchairs? Hundreds of thousands of wheelchairs? Forgive me if I'm wrong, but it's really pretty impressive what he does for the wheelchair program in Jamaica. So it's wonderful to see all of you. My question is, what do you find most effective for persons to write their questions and then you bring them up in order, to just have persons show their hands and ask questions freely?
We try to do it, just ask questions freely. And it's raise the hand electronically or visually. Let's see, I raise it over here and you can't see it, so I have to remember that I'm mirrored or not mirrored. What's left here is right there, but no, it's sort of how you would do it if you were all sitting at the table, except that you really need to keep, well, in this case, we can keep down those conversations that happen during your meeting that shouldn't happen, by the 3 or 4 people that are going to visit and talk about something while you're trying to make a presentation.
Additionally, I would add to that, John, that it depends on the size of the meeting. So if there was a small meeting with, say, 15 or 20 people, it would be quite easy to see everyone's hand and you know, to take turns asking questions and so forth. But, you know, when you come to multiple screens and you have multiple screens of persons, then at that point, the host would be guided, would be recommended to just have everyone write their questions and you go through them in order. Diana?
Yes, thank you, Brent. I just wanted to give a bit of a shout out for Zoom, because as Brent said, we've been using them for 6 years. When we first started using Zoom, they were a very small group of people. They're just, and we have found them so, not only so friendly, so willing to help, and if anything, they're right on it. I mean, they are on any criticism that they get within a very, very short time. What we have seen over the last month or so, because of the pandemic, suddenly Zoom is, you know, it's like having the, you know, any sort of brand name to describe an online meeting. You now don't say we're going to have an online meeting. You say we're going to have a Zoom meeting. That's what's happened in the last month or so. And obviously they've had some criticism because of their security, but certainly in our experience, they are a company that's just right on it. The last thing they want is for their security to be lax. So while I understand people's concerns, I really feel I have a lot of faith in the company itself.
Zoom started as a corporate governmental entity because of its security, of its encryption to and from. And they had about 10 million users. And then 3 weeks ago, they ended up with 100 million users.
That's true.
And so, no, I'm with Diana. We love it, and we're gonna stick with it. And Dawn, you're gonna take us out here.
And I can add that as working with United Way by remote, I have used, I think, about every major platform that's out there. I've used GoToMeeting, I've used web chat, I've used Teams, and there's a lot of features in Zoom you just don't find in those other platforms. Plus, some of them, like Teams, are absolute memory hogs. So I would also say that I've been frustrated in many a meeting because I was looking for the Zoom features and they weren't there, and it was messing up how I was attending the meeting.
Yes. Okay. I will do that one too. Thanks you, Grace. I'm with you. And Dawn, can you end us as we normally do?
Okay. If everyone will recite with me the four-way test of the things that we think, say, and do. Is it the truth?
Is it the truth?
Fair to all concerned.
It's fair to all concerned.
Let's build goodwill and better friendships.
Build goodwill and better friendships.
Is it beneficial to all concerned?
Will it
be beneficial
to all concerned?
Will be fun.
And it will be fun.
Around the world.
Rotary around the world.
Thanks for joining, everyone.
And you will love that one.
Thank you.